now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Okay, good evening, folks. Can you guys hear me by any chance? For some reason, I'm not hearing my own audio, so I have to kind of wonder if you're able to hear me. Let me know. Give me a shout out. Crystal, thank you so much for tuning in. We got Crystal, MF is here, Irvelyn, Summer is here. Sophia, Irvelyn, thank you for the confirmation. Good evening. Siobhan says sounds good. All right, so let's get this train underway, folks. We are going to be talking about what transpired in court today with Mr. McKeeva Bush. So let me just queue up a few things of interest. So he decided to plead guilty. The trial was supposed to start on the 7th, which is next week, Monday. Hi, Irvelyn. Hi, Ivan. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Crystal is here for it. Good stuff. See, a lot of you are tuning in. Let's get it going. Let's get it. Let's get it. So super interesting day today. With Mr. Bush deciding at the last minute, in the last minute plea. He had previously said that he was pleading not guilty. I had always thought that that was really, really peculiar in the circumstances, given the irrefutable evidence. His defense had said that they wanted to review the footage. So does this mean that if his footage was, thank you, Summer. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. If the footage was not clear or didn't show exactly what happened, does that mean that he would have pled not guilty? Let's talk about it, folks, because the tea tonight is a little hot. Hello, Siobhan, Melita, Morna, Beulah. Jaren is here for it. Jaren's like, yeah, give me the scoop on what happened in court today. Mr. Louis Rivers from Detroit is joining us. Olivia. Louis says he is freezing, but it will warm up. Well, get your tea ready because CMR is going to give you some hot. Sip it slowly. Some hot news, hot off the press. So listen, folks. The man decided at the last minute that he was going to change his plea to guilty. Like I said, the trial was supposed to start on Monday. Now, it was a little bit confusing. And I actually saw someone sent me a report from the Compass because they were like, it was a video report and they were confused by it. So I'm going to try to break it down for you guys because it seems like there was a guilty plea, first of all, to 3 out of 4 counts. So let me clarify what he has pled guilty to. So there were actually 3 counts of common assault, which is a lesser form of assault. That's why it's still in summary court and it's not a grand court matter. So common assault, you hit somebody, you beat them up, but the damages are not such that it elevates it to other types of assault that are available to charge someone with. So he says that he's going to plead guilty to counts 2 and 3, which are the common assault. So 1 through 3 were common assault charges. And then the 4th one is indecent, what was it called? Oh God, hold on. I'll tell you what it is. It's not indecent. It's the same one that I pled to the other day. So in other words, using profanity, calamitous language is, I think, what it says in the law. So he pled guilty to that as well. So cursing her out, that sort of thing. Disorderly conduct. There we go. And he refused to plead guilty to count 1. And so this created a bit of a contention as to why he wasn't pleading guilty to count 1. And the Crown was like, hold on a second. We want to ensure that Mr. Bush and his defense are accepting the Crown's facts. Because by him not pleading guilty to one of the counts, does that mean then at a sentencing hearing, which follows after, a guilty plea or a verdict, that after a sentencing hearing, that he would be trying to say, well, count 1 I didn't do, but 2 and 3, which are on camera, I did. So it got very confusing because the Crown was like, we need to know. We're going to go to trial, although he's technically pleaded guilty. We are going to go to trial unless he actually tells us now, via his defense lawyer, obviously, Mr. Alberga, that he is willing to accept the Crown's case in full, the facts of the Crown's case. And I tell you what, sometimes lawyers double speak. Like, they are very, very confusing. And so Alberga was saying essentially that they were willing to, they couldn't admit to count 1 because they don't have the CCTV footage. This is what he said. So they're not willing to admit to count 1 because there is no CCTV footage. Remember, Mr. Bush claims that he doesn't remember what happened or what went down. So they're not willing to admit to it, but they also accept that they can't deny it. I was like scratching my head like, what? You can't admit to it. You can't deny it. So what the hell are you saying? Yeah. Talking out of this side, and out of this side, and how the two are supposed to come together and meet, I have no clue. So again, the DPP, which was representative, was Patrick Moran. He is the head of the director of the DPP's office of the public prosecution. He basically was like, I can't accept that because apparently there was a letter that was sent out just on the 26th that he had concerns about in terms of the content of the letter. So then the letter had to be presented into evidence and given to the judge. So what transpired is it wasn't a trial because he pled guilty, but then it turned into a sentencing hearing. But it only turned into a sentencing hearing once Moran, the BPP's office, was comfortable with the fact that the defense was willing to admit all the facts as laid out. Otherwise, he wanted to do what's called a Newton hearing, where he would call witnesses, he would call the victim, he would call other eyewitnesses who were there on February the 21st when this assault took place at Coral Beach, and the whole works. So it seems like the defense was keen not to call witnesses. That was very, very evident. So this letter, my apologies, that was handed to the judge and she read it. She said, okay, I can see why the prosecution has some concerns. Because in the letter, what they were basically saying, in the 26th was just what, last week? That was just the other day, right? So in the letter, a week ago precisely, was the 26th, what was being said, essentially, they didn't read the letter in full, but the judge summed it up. What was being said was that Bush was trying to blame the victim, who, as you guys know, is a bar manager. He was attempting to blame her for the assault in the sense that she assaulted him. Now, let us be very clear, right? This rhetoric that she assaulted him has been ongoing from the night that it happened, that Friday night. By the following morning, once CMR had the story up, because we were the first ones to break the story, we had the story up. We heard this argument coming from his camp that she had assaulted him. She had pushed him or she'd done something to him, and that is what provoked the attack. And so even on the 26th, there was this letter making these assertions against the victim. There's so much contradictory stuff in this case that it really does baffle the mind, to be honest. And so there was various pieces of footage that were played in court today from different camera angles. And the Crown alleges that there was actually 3 assaults that took place on that night. The first one by some umbrellas, a second one when he threw the serving trays at her, and one was thrown at her head and she put up her hand and it ended up bruising her hand. And then another one where he was like choking her out and she's got bruises on her neck and stuff. So her leg was injured, her hand was injured, and she's got choke marks. The minimum injuries. So I watched the videos, and the prosecution obviously went first and they put forward the video evidence. And I was shocked at the assault, particularly in the kitchen, which was, in my opinion, the most egregious of all of the different locations, the different instances. And this was a sustained assault of like 20 minutes. So this wasn't a situation where, somebody just gets a quick box and you're done. This was a 20-minute situation. So the Crown put forward their case that basically Mr. Bush was at Coral Beach. His son, as we know, is one of the owners. I don't think he's any longer involved in that venture, but he was one of the owners and he frequented this facility. And the allegation is this isn't the first time that he has gotten, verbally abusive towards the manager. Hi, Pi, Adolfo, Nancy, lots of you guys tuned in tonight. So he went to Peppers, which we knew. Remember, we told you guys that in one of our first stories that we did on this situation, that he was seen at Peppers and he'd been drinking. The allegation is he'd been drinking for quite some time throughout the course of the early afternoon into the night when this incident actually took place. So by the time he went back to Coral Beach, he can be seen on camera stumbling, not walking too straight, obviously inebriated. And at some point he falls down because of his imbalance, because of the excessive alcohol. So he falls down and the bar manager, this young lady, attempts to help him, to assist him. And in her attempting to in her attempt to assist him, she was then assaulted. Her hair was pulled. She was punched in the face. And that's how it kind of all started. Now, the interesting thing about it is apparently she attempted to get him help beforehand. So what he did is what she did, my apologies, was she made a couple phone calls to a Mr. Parchment. Now, I don't recall him saying which Parchment. I'm assuming it's Richard Parchment, because I think him and Mr. Bush have had, at one point he was his political assistant when he was the premier or whatever. They've had a long-standing relationship. So she was calling a Mr. Parchment to come and get your boy, basically. He's drunk. He's not doing too well. Come and get him, get an escort, take him out of here. And she made numerous attempts and numerous phone calls to get someone to help him. And I guess those calls went unanswered. No response, she wasn't able to get the help. And then when she tried to go, because someone else I think was assisting him, but he went in on her when she tried to go and assist him. So I need to pull up my notes and the rest of this, because today was kind of a hot mess when I was sitting there listening to all this. I was like, irks, my little fingers in court, like, let me not misquote anybody, because they want to be calling me, talking about I got to sue you. So let us make sure we got all the facts and all of the quotations precise. So the first assault happened by the umbrellas outside. That was caught on camera, but the angle of the camera, you can kind of see her leaning down. And then, like I said, the most egregious one was in the kitchen. It was in full color. The other ones were like black and white. This one was full color. I mean, I was shocked when I saw what happened in the kitchen. I was really shocked. And then it took like 5 people to get him off of her. One lady started like almost trying to hit him, get him off. At one point, he took her phone, he threw it up against the wall. I think that was earlier before she went in the kitchen. She was able to get her phone back. And so he followed her in the kitchen and assaulted her again. And it was like choking her. And it looked like he was like trying to, there's like a kitchen, you know, the metal industrial kitchen sinks that was there. And it really looks like he was like trying to throw her up against that. And this poor woman, I mean, I think she's tall for a woman, but she's not big. And she's like fighting for her life. I mean, this was horrific to see. So Jaron from Facebook, you're on Facebook and YouTube. You can't get enough of us. You're watching on 2 different platforms. I hear you, buddy. 161 people on Facebook and 21 people on YouTube. Thank you, YouTubers, for tuning in. So, yeah, boy. Yes, CC. This is a hot mess. So yeah, so he really went in on her. And let me tell you what the other details of this situation. Give me 1 second here. So I sat through court all day today trying to understand exactly what transpired. So the Crown has made these assertions, which they're accepting because he's pled guilty. So it's bizarre that he's pleading guilty to 2 out of the 3 assaults, but whatever. So it says that, you know, she assisted to help him and the assault lasted for about 20 minutes. He pulled her hair, he hit her with a plastic tub, 2 tubs, threw one at her head, grabbed her by the neck, started choking her out, was kind of like throwing her around. And then a bunch of men, because the first person who came to her aid in the kitchen was a woman. And of course she couldn't help her. And then like 4 other guys then came in and tried to like separate them. And I think she was finally able to get free. So she said that she was unable to get her hair free from the defendant. At that point, this is when the assault started. He grabbed her by the hair, swung his hand at her head, at her, hitting her in the head, threw the phone against the wall, got up and walked to the kitchen, threw bus containers at her, causing injury to her arm. A supervisor took a photo of, a still photo of him, I think in the kitchen area as well. She went to the kitchen to warn other staff because now she's worried that maybe he's going to hurt other staff. I guess she didn't quite understand that he was out to get her. So she went to the kitchen to warn other staff and to try to still get him to leave. And then there was another attack in the kitchen where he was trying to get her phone from her. And 4 others had to come to her rescue to free her. And at that point, his hands were around her throat and he threw her about, swearing at her, saying that the premise was his and she's a effing lesbian. I'm summarizing his quotes, but I'm going to tell you one here that I did take down verbatim based on what the DPP's office said. So she's got bruising to her leg, arm, and neck, and they did have photographs of her injuries. Initially, I guess she was in shock and she didn't really know what to do. So she said that after the assault, you know, she waited until about 12:30, which would then be the late night, early morning, to contact the police after the shock wore off, was how she described it in her statement to the police. And she decided initially she was going to have him warned, but at some point she's like, this is enough. Like she's had other verbal assaults before, and this is now just enough. Now, here's where it gets interesting. At some point, there were, like I told you, she was trying to make phone calls to get help. She even sent a text message, a WhatsApp message at 9:45 to say, please help. There are 3 phone calls for help. And then at 10:34, after she was assaulted, she sent a photo to the Coral Beach Management WhatsApp group and said, he had a punching fight with me. This is not acceptable. I'm sorry, but I am done. Which you can appreciate because, girl, somebody just beat you like that. And of course you're going to be done. I don't give a rat's ass if you're on a work permit, if you have a good management job. There's no one that should be subjected to that kind of an assault anywhere, but especially in the workplace. So, I'm reading some of your comments. Carol says, there's no way he should get off this. So many have seen that video, and why the hell is he still the Speaker of the House? Richie says, wow, shocking. Adolfo says he did. That shows intent. And we're going to talk about that because the DPP actually accepts, I guess, that there was no premeditation involved. So he didn't go there intending to assault her, but obviously that was the end result. So Crystal says, wow, he could have killed her if no one intervened. I mean, who knows? Summer says it's embarrassing as a country that he's still working for the government. Well, he's an elected official, and there's only certain ways that you can remove an elected official, believe it or not. Now, he could have certainly been removed as Speaker of the House by the Premier. And this is where now, May the 26th, perhaps we all need to send a message to all of this unity government. And I mean, every single one has been complacent in this. None of them have spoken out. I think, to be fair to Mr. McTaggart, he did issue some sort of a statement, but not directly addressing this. And you think that they're going to address this now? Are you going to hear anything before the election about this? Nope. Nope. And you know what? Maybe some of them can't speak out because they themselves have a history of abuse of women. Let's be honest, this is the Cayman Islands, folks, and we know the stories all too well. We know who you are. We know those of you who have beaten your wives and broken their jaws and broken their arms, and you are still elected officials in the honorable Legislative Assembly. Except your behavior really isn't all that honorable now, is it? Anywho, sip your tea. Take it easy. Let us continue. So the police spoke to him at about 11:10 the following morning. And now this is where discrepancies come in. So he tells the police like one thing in terms of what happened. Now, remember, eventually he issues a public statement later on saying that he doesn't remember what happened that night. But right after the incident, like the following day, he was able to tell the police what happened. So he gave them a statement. And the DPP has said that those statements don't match up. So he was interviewed on March the 11th under caution. And that's when he suggested that he blacked out under further question, that he suffered loss of memory as a result of the initial fall. And he, here's what the DPP said today, that didn't match with his WhatsApp messages and his initial police statement. So this is where, folks, the police will trip you up, because when they talk to you, you know, they're going to be giving a statement as to what you said. Yes, that's right. Christopher, just to be clear, when I say that none of the LA members, I'm talking about the current government, this unity government that's in place. They're the ones running the show. They're the cabinet members. And, you know, they're the ones who are keeping him in power, because if they said this is unacceptable, he's got to go, then he's got to go. Poor Mr. Ezra did his best to get the other members to do a vote of no confidence against him or whatever to get him out. But that has certainly been unsuccessful to date. And you guys know, Kenneth is my boy, but I do not believe that that Kenneth's support of Mr. Bush even saying, oh, let's wait and see what happens. I don't think that that was the right position to take at all. There was no question in anybody's mind when that happened the Friday night. By the time I got it into the early mornings of Saturday, there was no question in terms of what transpired. Now it's dishonest. Someone had just clarified that Richard Parchment was one of the part owners of Coral Beats. I think it was about 4 of these guys who all have ownership. Yeah, so what then happened is she sent text messages or WhatsApp messages. Mr. Bush likewise sent WhatsApp messages at 10:56. So some minutes after she sent hers at 10:51, he then sends WhatsApp messages saying, So tonight, the victim, I won't call her name, attacked me. So this is where, again, later on you claim you have memory loss, but in writing and your initial statement to the police, you're now claiming that this woman attacked you because I told her that Coral Beach was not her lesbian hangout. He goes on to say that MF, you know what MF means, curse word, lesbian kicked me in the side or something like that. So it was already then becoming, and this is a very interesting comment, because I did hear from his camp by Saturday afternoon when they were claiming that, oh, she attacked Mr. Bush, she did this, she did that. This whole thing about her being a lesbian or having lesbian friends somehow played into the equation. And I'm thinking, what does that have to do with anything? In most places in the world, you go on with that kind of rhetoric, that gets you in even more trouble, because now you are assaulting someone because you think that they are part of a group. It's like assaulting someone because they're Black, assaulting someone because they have blonde hair, whatever the situation is. You know, those things can be aggravating circumstances in relation to the assault. So it was a hate crime, exactly, Summer. I thought that when they were saying this to me on the Saturday after the incident, I'm thinking, is this really where you want to go with this? Like, are you kidding me? This is your defense, or this is what you're saying on behalf of Mr. Bush, that he was assaulted and, oh, this woman's a lesbian? I'm like, do I look like I hear she's a lesbian? Like, that's ridiculous. So what I find interesting about that is you guys do know that in this country, there's this whole bandwagon of LA members who are very much anti-gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever. They're thumping their Bible 24/7. They're going on and on about that domestic partnership bill, civil partnership. And I think that at the time, there was a small movement of very ignorant people who were like, yeah, well, if she's a lesbian or she has lesbian friends, that means that what, you can beat the shit out of her and that's okay. What? Come on now. That's not okay. And that certainly elevates this, in my mind, to a hate crime and to a more serious offense, if that was the motive at any point. And in fact, the DPP said that today. You know, he said that, and the sentencing guidelines in the UK, that's an aggravating factor. So the DPP said that basically his apology did not match what he said to the police. And the defense then stood up and they, I don't know why, but they had a guy get on the stand. I'm still not clear exactly who he was, to be honest, but a guy got on the stand and he presented the video evidence where he had stitched all the videos together. And somehow they thought that that was going to be helpful. Now, despite the fact that earlier in the proceedings, Ms. Zellberger said, we're not going to be relying on this defense of she attacked him or whatever. During the viewing of the video, which again, I don't know why it had to be seen again, but they're like, oh, we wanted to stitch it together. He was like, oh, pay attention to how Mr. Bush's head is like, you know, bobbing and how he's moving. And that can't be him attacking anyone. And the judge was like, what are you saying? Are you now trying to say to me that you want me to look at this and see that she's attacking him? So it was very confusing and duplicitous and how that bit was being presented. And I think that that was the intent, to question why she was assaulted. And the judge was like, but you just said that you weren't going to do that. So what am I looking at? Why are you telling me to look at her movements and to zoom in? You couldn't really see anything that indicated that she was the aggressor in any way, shape, or form. So I still had people up to today, even after our first article went up that he'd pled guilty, saying, oh, is there any truth to this whole story that that he was simply defending himself? Come on, people. Listen, we have to be honest in how we handle situations, right? And whether you like Mr. Bush or don't like Mr. Bush has a very charismatic personality. So of course he's a likable person. This isn't about that. This is about the truth. You can only claim self-defense when it actually is self-defense, first of all. And when you look at the circumstances, you don't chase somebody into the kitchen. You don't throw tubs at them. You don't assault them at 3 different locations, basically, choke them out in the way in which he did, and then claim that that is actually self-defense. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how self-defense works. Self-defense is someone comes after you, they're trying to kick your butt, and you're going to punch them back or whatever to get them off of you. And after that is done, after the fear is gone of immediate harm, then you call the authorities, you deal with it in some other way. You don't continue to chase them and to beat them up. That doesn't become self-defense. That then becomes an assault. So Summer says, even after having status for years, I only recently registered to vote to stop this sort of foolishness. Good for you, Summer. Get it, girl. May election is right around the corner. Cece says, he know damn well it ain't shit happened to him when he fell because his bones are well secured with all that fat. Cece, behave yourself. Lizette says, loss of memory. Yeah, right. Lesbia Tejada, this society is very inquisitive. I'm not excusing him, but to accuse him is responsibility of the judges. Well, we're not accusing him, honey. He's admitted. I mean, so I don't know what the accusation is. He has admitted to assaulting the woman at least 2 out of the 3 times that night. And they've also accepted that, and the third one, which he hasn't admitted to, that he isn't actually denying it either. He just claims that he doesn't remember. But since there is no CCTV footage of that, he's not willing to admit it. So rest assured that no one is accusing him. It is now the judge's responsibility to sentence him based on his acknowledgement. What I always found interesting, Lesbia, such an interesting name that you have there, is that why would Mr. Bush issue an apology letter way back when and then turn around and claim that he was innocent? When this trial first started, I thought to myself, well, that is the most bizarre thing in the world, because in the original apology letter, he accepted responsibility for her injuries. So I'm thinking, why are you pleading guilty? But then the guilty plea was like, oh, I'm going to plead guilty until my forensic team has an opportunity to review the video footage to see if there's any way that they can pick it apart. So the DPP did say that this late guilty plea, he's to get very minimal consideration for that, because let's face it, today is Thursday and the trial was supposed to start on Monday. So literally 2 days before a trial date, you decide to plead guilty to this, wasting the court's time when he could have just pled guilty from the onset, which would have been April. Yep. So the DPP, the defense, my apologies, gave a bit about his history and who he is, saying that he grew up poor, very humbled conditions. He didn't have electricity until 1971. He's been an elected representative for 36 years. I actually did not realize, to be honest, that it was that long. I actually thought that it was 20-something years, but gosh, how the time flies, right? So it's actually been 36 years. And, they talked about all of the things that he had done in those 36 years and how he's been the first premier of these islands. And, he's worked with a lot of ministries. And basically one of the things they said is that every single person in this country has been touched by the things that he has done, through his position within government. And they also made note of something that I thought was interesting, that there has been a precedent set where other members of the Legislative Assembly had mishaps, was a term used, and that led to no convictions being recorded for them. And that he profusely apologized. He's extremely remorseful and deeply regrets that he became that intoxicated. And that is what led to the incident, is what the defense actually said. I found that interesting because I thought to myself, if he was profusely apologetic and extremely remorseful, why are they still nitpicking and not admitting to the 3 common assaults? Why are you trying to say, well, we're not going to admit to this one because you never caught it on camera? To me, that doesn't sound like someone who's entirely remorseful, because they're still not copping to everything that went down that night, so that's crazy. So Aldolfo says, remorse honorable my ass. 9 years after the fact, he invokes his daughter's death as a reason for his drinking and getting drunk. How honorable is that? That is a sad situation right there. I gotta tell you the truth. It's very sad that you have to use any excuse to drink. And let's be honest, if you've had this issue for 9 years and you're a leader in this country and you're not able to get yourself help, maybe the best thing to do is to retire so that you can focus on your overall health and well-being. Summer thinks that he's going to get off with a suspended sentence or some crap, and I hope he gets sued after he gets kicked out of government. Well, I don't know if he's going to get kicked out of government. I think that will be up to the voters in West Bay to make that decision. But his lawyer did say that he'd be willing to compensate the victim for any medical expenses that she had incurred. So Aldolfo says that he's my cousin. I'm accusing him. He's guilty, not just by me saying so, but by his own admission as well. Well, yeah, I mean, he's admitted guilt. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon there. Summer says, I hardly call that an apology letter, but I get what you're saying. Apologies should not have excuses attached. Yes. And then apologies you apologize. You don't like waver back and forth on the apology. And I think that, that's kind of where this whole situation gets a little bit tricky for those of us who are watching it with a side view going, that doesn't make too much sense. So, the Crown was then saying a number of different things about the fact that, because what the DPP is saying, that when they initially did this letter that I was telling you guys, this November 26th letter, they had tentatively suggested, I think they kind of maybe went back to it again today, that that the bar manager, the young lady who got assaulted, had behaved inappropriately and that she spat on him and assaulted him. And that led to her getting the shit beat out of her, basically. And then Alberga referred to the Crown's obsession with the fact that he won't cop to the full thing of what happened. And the Crown said, listen, she had loss of sensation in her leg. She had to get physiotherapy. His guilty plea came days before the trial and not at his first appearance in April. There was statutory aggravating feature where she makes a presumption. This is the UK guidelines now, that Mr. Bush made a presumption about her sexual orientation. And that places, this is the quotation he used, that places this in the highest category. And they admit that he drank too much and behaved appallingly, but they also admit that there's a lack of premeditation. So they do not believe that he went there intending to beat her up or anything of the sort. That, yes, he had one too many. He was over next door at Pepper's getting sauced up, having one too many, and then came back, and this all resulted. It seems to me that really what down here, folks, is obviously he had some sort of angst towards this woman. She has said that this was not the first verbal assault against her, and now obviously this was the worst. And so she'd really had enough. And I think it just culminated for him that night. I don't know if it really was because he thinks that she invites lesbians to come out to the facility. Customers are customers, folks. I mean, I wouldn't care if they're lesbians or not, if they're paying their bills. And let's be honest, a lot of gay people have a good disposable income to spend their money. And, if they're at an establishment that your son has a interest in, they're spending their money like everybody else. Shouldn't you be happy if the bar is making money? Or I don't even get why that would be the catalyst to his issue with her and why she was assaulted in such a violent manner, just because she supposedly allows lesbians to come to Coral Beach. That this was not her lesbian hangout, is what he said. So it's a very peculiar reason. I mean, do men get upset when they see lesbians hanging out? Is it because, oh, I can't have access to that woman? Or, there's too many lesbians here, which means there's not enough of anybody else for me to maybe have interest in me? I don't know. Cece says the help he needs is to be jailed and throw away the key. Summer shares that obviously I feel very passionate about this. I'm going to try to simmer down. It makes my blood boil. West Bay for life. What? Summer LaRue, you're a West Bay? You're a Bay? Mess with you, girl. But yes, there are a lot of people who, get very upset hearing that a woman was assaulted in such a very public way. I mean, imagine how she feels being the manager at this facility. Your staff, the kitchen help, the busboys, whoever, had to literally come and pry you from the arms of the Speaker of the House and rescue you because you were being violently assaulted. And I hate to really think how this would have ended had she not had any help there. My God, it's just deplorable. So Adolfo shares that chances are he attempted to get fresh with her and she rebuked him. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if any of that went down. What I do know is that this is really, really shocking. And I have to tell you, when I saw the footage of the kitchen incident, it's serious. I wish somehow that I could actually get a copy of that and show you guys exactly how serious that was. Because I think a lot of people will tend to downplay this and not understand the magnitude of what was going on. But it looks pretty bad. I don't know what that comment is, Cindy. She wouldn't have a threesome. Oh, okay. Behave yourself. Amanda says his ego is huge. If he was genuinely remorseful, he would have retired and sloped away somewhere. But no, he wants a notoriety, which is sickening. Now, having said that, did you guys catch the video today? So we took our break at lunch after like 1 o'clock. And of course, media is outside waiting for him to come out. So the lawyers come out first, his lawyer, which is QC Michael Alberga. And then after that is Mr. I don't know who this guy is who was doing the video. Like I said, he did that. And then who else was it after that? Oh, I guess Mr. Alberga's secretary or assistant, she was there. So they all come out and everyone's like, okay, now we're waiting on Mr. Bush. So he came, like he was coming out. The Compass had 2 people. The Compass is always extra, folks. They got a guy who does just video. And then they have Andrew Harris, who he's like the court reporter. So he does all the court stuff for them. And so when it was time to come out, Mr. Bush was not having it. He had his mask on throughout the entire trial. He is wearing a mask. And when he saw other people there, he pumped the brakes real hard at that door. And he started to backtrack and he did not want to come out. So did you guys see this video today? So I posted it up on the Facebook and Instagram pages. Go check it out in case you haven't seen it. But basically, he was refusing to come out because I guess the media was there. What was the point, though? I was a bit lost. Like, you come out, you get your picture taken, you get a photograph, maybe a video. The Compass, they asked his lawyer, do you have any comment? And they said, not at this time. They might ask you for comment and you just said no. It was really strange. And I must tell you, as someone who's represented this country for 36 years, not even the 20-something I was thinking of, but for 36 years, I found it beyond bizarre that that was his response today, because I really expected to see a man who was more composed and professional, and, someone who was just going to be like, I have no comment. I have nothing to say. And he would not come out. So my understanding is from my sources, because we got sources all over the place. My understanding from my sources is that apparently he decided to stay in the building and to have lunch upstairs. But I'm like, at some point you got to come out. So when the next hearing date is, does that mean then that you're going to stay inside the whole time? Like, it's just silly. It's very, very stupid. So I don't even know what to say. Let me just get the date of when he's back, because I did have to leave a little bit early to do some physio on my leg, which was injured on Monday. So I need to get confirmation on the date that he's actually due back. So Mitzi says, okay, what will PPM do about this? You keep up the good work you do. Thank you, Mitzi. The bottom line is PPM will do nothing about this. This coalition government will do nothing about it, because if they try to do something about it, Mr. Bush has already threatened them. They were only able to form the government because of him. Let us remember this, right? So there are people in the PPM party who claim that they would never in a million years work with Mr. Bush. And when they had to form the government, they went on their hands and knees begging to kiss his rear end so they could form the government, because some people must be premier and they must have that power. Their little tag-alongs, ended up saying, oh, yeah, well, I will swallow my own vomit, or eat my own vomit, or whatever the term Mr. David White used, to basically stay in power and have Alden, your leader, be premier, even if that means working with Mr. Bush, a man who you claim you would never work with ever. Wow. That is quite an interesting image when you think about it. For someone to say that they would eat their own vomit, or they would swallow their own vomit, it's not a very pleasant picture in my head. But it basically says to me, and you guys can help me if your interpretation is different of this, that they would do anything to form the government, to have put Mr., like I said, McLaughlin back in power as premier. And there was, I always say there's no honor amongst thieves. And when I say that about politicians, I'm not saying that literally they're thieves, although some of them probably are. But what I am saying is that at the end of the day, it's shocking that they are prepared to do whatever it takes in the name of whatever to get what they want. And all they want is power. It's not even like, you want something, like you're negotiating something that is going to benefit the people of this country. You just want to be in that position of power, to have 2 terms as premier of the Cayman Islands. And so to me, it is a sad indictment, I think, on this entire country. It's a poor reflection on us that this coalition government has by and large remained silent. Let us remember that this coalition government comprises 3 women. We have Ms. Barbara Bush, who sits on the backbench, but part of the government. We have Juliana O'Connor Connolly, the representative for Cayman Brac, who's a woman, a lawyer, a Christian, she has said. And she's also a minister. Now, I hope Women's Affairs doesn't fall under her, but she's an education minister. I'm sure there are young people in, the schools who might look up to her as someone who's respectable and, that they should, they might want to be like someday. And this is a woman who has not lent her voice to this issue at all. I got a problem with that. Then we have Ms. Tara Rivers, who's also well-educated, also an attorney. She is in charge of financial services. She's a young mother. She has a son, I believe. And she's the youngest of the women in the Legislative Assembly. So you think that she would be a bit more progressive, literally. And once again, not a single comment, nothing about the situation. Radio silence. How can you accept this? How can you accept a man beating a woman, assaulting her on 3 separate occasions that night, and you not be appalled by this, and you not speak out about this, to just say that, listen, I can't agree with a woman being assaulted under any circumstances, but a manager at a facility that your son has part ownership in is egregious in a number of different ways. A public assault is so embarrassing for her. It hurt her physically. I'm sure she's traumatized emotionally and mentally. And to not address that at all says a lot about your character and who you are. And like I said, this isn't a question of whether you like Mr. Bush or whether you don't like him. Set that aside and look at this as objectively as you possibly can. This is really bad, folks. And then I reflect even on my own situation, which I'm in court next week. Is it Thursday? Let me see. When's the 10th? Yeah, a week from today. I'll be back in court. And here's a DPP standing up about my words, just using words in a podcast, where I called someone things that they didn't like. I called them a con artist, a pedophile, and so on. That amounted to harassment, and I should be thrown in jail for that. But women can be beaten by politicians and they get no jail time. And their lawyer says not only should they not get any jail time, but in fact, they should not even get anything recorded on their record because of who they are and all the things that they have done. And supposedly they produce hundreds of references. I mean, I want to know exactly how many references because I had 65. And to the best of my knowledge, that's probably a record. Now, if he got hundreds, I want to see them hundreds. That was probably just an exaggeration legal talk by his representative. But you see why anybody with sense would be concerned about this? And then we try to excuse the behavior by claiming that she spat at him or she somehow assaulted him. And that's okay. Juliana O'Connor Conley. I'm pretty sure the Bible does not permit a man to beat his wife or to assault other people. That has to be against some biblical code. Miss Barbara Connolly, she's a mother. She's got female children. You know, she's got grandchildren. I'm sure she could envision that one day her children could be in this position or her grandchildren could be in this position. And if you don't speak up for other people, I mean, what do? You wait until it's your turn and then you think, okay, now I can speak up. Tara Rivers. All of the men, Alden McLaughlin, Dwayne Seymour. Like I said, Mr. McTaggart did issue some sort of a statement. Who else do we have? Who else is in the government? Eugene, let's just forget about Mr. Eugene. Like, honestly, that man don't speak about nothing, so I'm not surprised. That doesn't shock me. We did see that Bernie Bush stepped away from that grouping because of, again, you know, their position on at least not removing him as Speaker of the House. Who else is in the government? Joey Hugh. Has Mr. Joey had anything to say about this? Not a word. Nothing. It's wrong, folks. It is disturbing and it's wrong. And it's really a sad indictment on us as a community and as a people. When we sit back, we see these things happening. I don't give two hoots if it's a politician, if it's your mama, your daddy, whatever. You can't give right, wrong, and vice versa. We have to start saying on behalf of victims, gender-based violence is a serious issue in this country. And in fact, workplace violence is also a very, very serious situation. A lot of people are subjected to, you know, workplace violence in offices, in bars and restaurants. Even domestic workers are sometimes assaulted by the people that they work for. And it's wrong. It should never be happening. Chris, thank you for your comment. Chris says, talk the truth, Sandy. I'm really disappointed with members in the House. And to be very clear, the opposition members have spoken out and they were trying to get a vote of no confidence. This is the current government who has refused to speak out on this issue. Oh, my apologies. Someone said Barbara Connolly. I said Barbara Bush. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to rename her. Thank you for that correction, Barbara Connolly. I'm disappointed. I don't know about anybody else, but this should not be a situation where, you know, this could even be happening in this country and people just remain silent. I think it says a lot about them. It really, really does. So Flashpoint says there's one set of rules for the connected and powerful and another set for the average person. Absolutely. That's what privilege is all about. So we have talked about privilege on this show, and there's different types of privilege. There's political privilege. There is privilege because, you know, finances, you got the coins, things happen differently for you. There's white privilege. So sometimes just because of the color of your skin, you get a pass. versus other people. So there's different types of privileges. And I think politicians enjoy a degree of privilege in this country that they would otherwise not have. It would not surprise me if many of the failures get reelected. Flashpoint, this is where I'm saying we got to change the narrative in this country. Let's not do that. Let's refocus ourselves and start holding them accountable for their failures. And it's not good enough that you can build a school that, by the way, still doesn't help educate our children. But we need to really, and I agree with Crystal, drain the swamp. I mean, that's one thing that, although Trump didn't really do that, he was part of the swamp. But that's one thing that he has said that I agree with. Let us drain the Cayman swamp. And I dare say that, folks, the swamp is full of a lot of politicians that need to go. And they're not going to like it. But you know what? We need to start thinking about what is in the best interest of this country. All right. Now, here's a little tidbit before we close off the show for the evening. Did you guys see this article? Woot, woot. Look at that. CMR bringing you another breaking story again. Malcolm Anthony Eden has thrown his hat in the ring, and he is looking to take over the political reins from his father. So Malcolm, in case you don't know who Malcolm Eden is, he's the eldest son of Mr. Anthony Eden. And I think Mr. Anthony has two boys, Malcolm and, I forget the other young man's name. So he's got two boys. This is the eldest. Malcolm is 45 years old, and he is now declared officially. Now, you guys you will remember this, that back in September, I told you guys here at Kimama Road that this was a rumor, that we were going to put some coins on this rumor because we knew that this was happening. And, we got our sources, so I can't always tell you where our sources are at and how we get this information. Brian, thank you, Christopher. Yes, so there's Brian, Eden, and Malcolm. And so Malcolm is the eldest son. He's 45 years old. He's got 3 kids and a nice wife. And so he has now thrown his hat in, and he's declared for May 26th. Now, someone sent me this today, but like I said, we knew it, so we were just waiting. And he put an ad in the paper, says, "You're parliamentary candidate for the Savannah electoral district," which means that Mr. Anthony is finally retiring. Cayman Islands general election, the 26th of May, 2021. Now, a lot of people found this interesting who sent this to me. And I said, where was this ad, by the way? Child, Summer, behave yourself. Behave yourself, because the man ain't talking about no LGBTQ community if his father is supporting him. Hello. I don't think that's going to go down well in the family. But I would love to hear his position on this, without a doubt. It's a good question. So, yes, after 28 years in office, his father is ready to hand it over to his son, which is interesting on more than one level. We'll talk about it. We'll get an opportunity to talk about it. Malcolm, you're always welcome on the show. We want to hear what you got. A lot of people have shared that Malcolm's a nice guy. He's involved in Rotary. He does some community work, but most people do not see Malcolm as a politician. So let's have him on here and hear what he's got to say. Maybe he's got something to shock us and surprise us. He works part-time as a real estate agent at Trident Properties, Cayman Islands Limited. His online biography says that he's worked in real estate since the 1990s. He holds an MBA in finance, and he previously worked at the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, where he left in January of 2008. And at the time of his departure, he was head of banking supervision division for 2 years. And he was appointed as head of banking in September of 2005. He also is the managing director for a company called Audiophile. They're like a high-end home automation and electronics sound company. And he is past president and member of Rotary Club of Grand Cayman. So interesting. We've got 2 candidates so far that have declared for Savannah. Gina Williams and Malcolm Eden. Now, a lot of people, I think, would love to have a third option for Savannah. So we'll see how that goes. Let me just see. Jenny says, I can't wait for elections. I hope that there will be some young progressive options for us to vote in and get these jokers out. Couldn't agree with you more. Who's running in Bodentown East? Any updates? Bodentown East would be Dwayne Seymour. Boy, nobody yet. We need somebody in Bodentown East. Someone said to me today that they voted for Dwayne Seymour last time, but they would never vote him again. So they're looking to see what the alternative is. And I think a lot of people are looking for an alternative for that situation. Are you still working on getting Malcolm? Everybody can come on. Flashpoint. They are political candidates. So once they put themselves out there and they declare, they should be seeking to make the media circuit. I mean, I should not be begging them to come on. You know what I'm saying? They should be seeking us out. They should be trying to find venues and avenues to reach out to the people, because that's how politics works. And if you're not that kind of person, then you're in the wrong profession in terms of politics. So Crystal said Dwayne Seymour needs to go. Where's my little bell? I need to get me a little bell. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. I don't know. My audio isn't working tonight. I don't know what's up with my audio. That was the kaboom one. But yeah, I need to unplug and plug something in. I don't know what's going on. Cameron says, leave the swamp alone. We're going to have to eat Hickory when Turtle Farm gets taken from us. Lord have mercy. Don't even talk about Turtle Farm, because we're going to be going there soon. About the fiasco that has actually been unfolding at Turtle Farm, where they gave themselves a raise based on some error. Say what? Who's running these organizations, folks? We got to talk about that. Flashpoint, we're about to find out how influential his father is. Well, yep. Flashpoint, we reached out to Miss Williams, and let me tell you what she said. The last time we spoke to her, she said, and this was back in September, we sent her a message saying, no, my apologies, October the 15th, we said, few people are asking when they'll be hearing from you as a candidate for Savannah. She responded and said, not to worry, this is forthcoming, but thank you for letting me know. And now we are almost 2 months later and we've not heard from her, so I can't tell you what's going on there. But yes, we did reach out. We've not interviewed her because she said it's coming. Soon come. No, Cameron, behave yourself. BT East is a strange constituency. They don't vote based on issues. You got that right. Oh, however, the person who I was talking to tonight did say to me that they would love for Teresa Lewis Pitcairn to throw her hat back in the ring for Bodentown East. Now, Teresa has ran a couple times in that constituency, and I think she's of the position that basically, you know, maybe the Bodentown East people get what they deserve. They shouldn't ever complain because they keep putting the same people in. And there is a possibility that Ozzy might come back out. I think some people have been trying to get him to get, you know, up and running. Cameron says, if you get in, I know Mall Road going to get paved. We don't need it paved. We love the Mall Road just how it is, folks. We love it rough and ready. Mitzi says, if the PPM will allow Mr. Bush to come back in the LA and take his speaker seat after he pled guilty, I think it's time to say goodbye to all of them. After all he has done to my husband, Brian Tomlinson at NRA. Oh, Brian was your husband? Girl, you know, sometimes I don't put things together. Oh, I leave him to my good God. Oh, yeah, right. That was a hot mess. Lord. And Summer says, Mitzi, he messed with your family and still around? Woo, what a heat. Anyway, folks, on that note, we are definitely out of time for the show. Please tune in the morning tomorrow. It's Friday, is it not? Yes. TGIF, it's been a rough week. I feel like we just need to have a drink in the morning or something, because it has been a hell of a week and it continues to be hellish. But we will get through it, folks. Thank you again so much for your condolences and your well wishes. So yes, January is going to be right around the corner. Coming up in mid December here shortly. Someone said that another candidate in Bodden Town is a wife beater themselves. So maybe that's why they don't speak out. What a heat. There's a lot of wife beaters in LA. So far, the verdict in Mr. Bush's case is penciled in for a week before Christmas. What a Christmas present that's going to be. But we'll just keep an eye and update you guys on if and when that changes, sort of thing. Adolfo, says, when is the discussion about the Turtle Center? Yes, listen, it's going to take place, but what has happened? Oh, Lord, Adolfo, so he got some juice for this one. Maybe on Monday. Let's tentatively have it planned for Monday morning, because I'm still going through listening to the LA proceedings, because it's really important that I hear in the first instance, like from their own mouths, what they claim the mistake was and what happened. I did listen to that part of the proceedings from December the 1st, which was just this week, but I'm so confused. I had to listen to it again because it got my brain all jumbled up. Like I'm confused about how the mistake happened. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll definitely go through all of that shenanigan. Thank you, Mitzi. Yes, I understand your position. Summer says, thanks for bringing to light the ridiculousness. Blood cooling down now. Take care. Thank you, Summer. And Crystal says, I recently got registered to vote. This will be my first election voting. Well, you go, girl. Let me remind all of you about the importance of getting registered, folks. Regardless of where you stand politically, you cannot make a difference, and you certainly cannot have a say if you do not get out there and vote. You've got a little bit of time left. January 4th is the deadline. Elections.ky. Remember, we said this morning that they're going through the process now of cleaning up the electors list for people who they say are no longer eligible to vote because they're living overseas, students, whatever. Objections to the list. So make sure that your name is on there and your information is legit and your information is correct. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. Please stay safe, and we'll see you guys in the morning. And that's it, right? Yeah, looks good. One more comment. Registering to vote is so easy, says Summer. Just do it. Couldn't have said it better myself. Just get out there and register. It is really easy, actually. All right, good folks. See you guys in the morning, and have a good night.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.